Hi everyone, this lesson is going to be about midpoints, which probably make you think you know what the definition is. A midpoint is a point in the middle. Okay, what does a point in the middle mean? Is that a point in the middle? No? Why not? Why is that point in blue that I just drew in on the picture on the top right not a midpoint? Because it's not in the middle. Well, what do you mean by in the middle? And when I'm in class, when I'm teaching this, usually it takes anywhere between 30 seconds or a few minutes. But somebody eventually says we have to put that dot so that it's the same distance away from R as it is from T. To call a point in the middle, we all intrinsically know it needs to be there. Excuse me, let me make that dot a little bit smaller and better. That looks a little close to T for me. There we go. Pretty close. We all know what a point in the middle is supposed to look like, but what the definition is it's a point the same distance from the endpoints. So it's the same distance from one endpoint to another endpoint. Need to give this this point a name. I'm going to call it M. And we would say M is the midpoint of RT. All right. Also want to make sure we know how to mark this, and we mark this by putting those tick marks. You could put one tick mark on either side. You could put two tick marks on either side. You could put three tick marks on either side. It doesn't matter how many you put, but because they're equal distances, we need to put different amount of tick marks on each side. All those other segment addition problems we were doing would mean things that were different distances, or we don't know the distances. Here, those distances have to be the same. Bisects. Simple word that means divides into two equal pieces. So you can write something like M bisects segment RT, RT with the bar above it. Segment bisector is an object that divides into two equal pieces. So we'd have to draw a new object in here. I'm going to just draw a ray. And I'll draw this ray right here. That ray would not be ray MQ. It starts at point Q, goes through M, and on forever. So I'd have to say QM is a segment bisector of segment RT. All right, a lot of words here that pretty much mostly mean the same thing. It's just sort of like different forms. Some are nouns, some are verbs. Midpoint is a noun just talking about the point, capital letter. Segment bisector is a noun talking about an object. In this case, I drew a ray. Bisects is a verb talking about the action of doing the dividing. But in the end, you're just going to really care about two quick things today. The most important one, and the one that your IXL is going to be on, is midpoints of number lines. How do you find the middle of E and F? Well, you take a look at E, you take a look at F, and you probably could eyeball it and tell me the answer is -4. Now, I'm going to calculate this in just a moment, but if you eyeballed it and could tell the middle was -4, great. That's not going to be something you could do on every problem, but that is something you can do in this first one. The midpoint of FG, most people get wrong. Usually when I teach this in class in person, usually somewhere between the third guess and the sixth guess is right. But the first and second guesses are almost always wrong. What's the middle of FG? Usually the most common answers people yell out when they say, hey, what's the midpoint is? 0? No, it's not. 0 is closer to G. -1? No, it's not. -1 is closer to F. Then I start getting people who sometimes start thinking a little deeper, and whether they get the answer right away after a couple wrong guesses or a few more, they realize it's between -1 and 0, and the number between -1 and 0 is -0.5. Now, doing this on your own is challenging, and some of the IXL ones would be challenging, so it's easier to have a formula. You're going to add, then divide by 2. Take the numbers, -5 and -3, and add them, and then later divide it by 2. That comes out to -8 divided by 2, and that gets you the right answer of -4. The F and G points are -3 and +2. First add them. When you add -3 plus 2, it's -1. If you take -1 divided by 2, you get -0.5. If you understand the red problem, when you go to IXL, you will get a lot of it right. If you can do both the blue problem and the red problem, you might be able to get 100%. You'll certainly will do well. But for everybody, this purplish, blackish, purplish formula that I just put on here, first adding, then divided by 2, is worth doing and worth calculating to double check some of your answers. And about a third of the problems coming up soon will be decimals. All right, just a reminder, midpoint means not a point in the middle. It means 2 equal pieces. Meaning this piece is the same as this piece. Meaning how big is ST? ST is also 13. How big is RT? No trick question. 13 plus 13, or 13 times 2, is 26. Same idea here. V is the midpoint of GI. Midpoint does not mean a point in the middle. It means 2 equal pieces. This piece on the left is the same as the right. What math would you do to find the 2 pieces if the whole thing is 39? No, it's not 30. The answer is not 39. And you don't multiply it by 2 and get 78. Instead, you work backwards and you divide by 2. And we divide by 2, you get the part on the left, GV is 19.5, and the part on the right, VI is also 19.5. All right, that concludes this lesson. You're going to go to the midpoint IXL level. I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head. I want to say it's B.6, but I could be wrong. And you're going to go today to a score of 75. Going any higher than 75 gets you to some algebra problems. We're going to get into those algebra problems next lesson. But for this lesson right now, we're just stopping, spending your time on number line problems and equal stuff like that. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope the assignment goes well, and please check in with your substitute if it's not.